And welcome to the locker room, the SEC football edition. This time we're going to talk about the defending national champions, the Alabama Crimson Tide. We are your hosts, Kyle Anderson.
Eli Gold here. No, I'm just joking. It's Brandon live in the locker room.
Matt Hirsch right here in the locker room.
And the locker room is brought to you by Rammer Jammer Beer. Go to rammerjammerbeerco.com to find out where it's being sold and what items you can buy online. Guys, college football is finally about to come back around.
I'm going to let play.
Go for it.
I'm just going to let play.
Now, the first one we're going to talk about Alabama. Coming off back-to-back national championships. And people think they could be poised to go ahead and go for 3 in a row. And it's possible. We're going to look at the schedule and see what we think. We're going to start out with the first big one. Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic in Atlanta, August 31st. They're playing the Virginia Tech Hokies.
I ain't worried about nothing.
I
ain't worried about nothing.
I mean, this is a bigger game for Virginia Tech than it is for Alabama.
Is this kind of a warm-up game for Alabama?
I wouldn't say it's a warm-up game. You do have to take Virginia Tech seriously. If you go in there with the mentality this is a warm-up game, you probably, you go home with an L. So you're going to have to take it seriously, but it's one of those games that Alabama should win by 2 scores or more.
There's a good USA Today article recently talking about games starting the season in this game and how it does mean more for Virginia Tech because they're starting the coaches poll just right outside of the top 25, and if they can make a good showing or even win this game, it would be huge for their program and for the rest of their year.
And that would be true. And now to let everybody know, Alabama all time against Virginia Tech, 11-1.
Yeah, they played some bad Virginia Tech teams though.
Yeah, they did.
But that one was a terrible game.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Misery in Nashville is what that one was.
Now, Alabama gets the week off, and then September 14th, they travel out to College Station. It'll be the first time they played at Kyle Field since 1988.
Johnny Football.
Going to take on Texas A&M. Now, a lot of people are excited about this game. It'll be CBS's first game of the season. They're not going to do Florida and Tennessee. It is going to be Alabama and Texas A&M. How do you guys see this game playing out?
Have you guys ever been to the Zone? Kyle Field?
No, I've not.
Hey, I'm from Texas. The Zone is something special. And I'm telling you, the Zone will be rocking September 14th. Hey, look, Texas A&M came in, gave Alabama their only loss of the year last year. This game is going to be competitive. I mean, a lot of people say, hey, Nick Saban has, however many months to prepare for Johnny football. But guess what? Texas A&M has the same amount of time to prepare for Alabama. So this game is going to be a close one. I can't even call it right now.
I think A&M lost a little bit too much, especially on their offensive line. I think that can, of course, Alabama did too, I guess. But I think that Alabama's hungry for this one. I think that they might have overlooked A&M a little bit last year, and that's not going to happen this year.
And not to mention, you get the game against Virginia Tech, and then you get an off week, so you really get 2 weeks to prepare.
This will be a great game, and a little tidbit about that game in '88. It was moved from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, if people will remember, because there was the threat of a hurricane that never happened.
Yep.
Now, the next game, Alabama will come home for their first home game of the season, where they'll take on Colorado State. The great thing about this first ever meeting between the two schools, I think this will be a good game for Alabama. The only thing I'm worried about is if they go out, put everything into the A&M game, they come home and have kind of a letdown. I don't think they lose, but it'll be closer than people think if they do that.
Jim McElwain, who's the coach out there, still probably knows a lot about Alabama's playbook and what they can throw at them.
You got to have the Jimmys and Joes. It's not going to matter. I think that they'll take care of Colorado State. Colorado State is, they're struggling right now. This is not the Colorado State with Bradley, Van Pelt and the Colorado State teams that we've seen.
Sonny Lubeck or whatever.
Yeah,
man. Coach for years.
So
they should have never gotten rid of.
Yeah, never should have got rid of them. But this is not that Colorado State team. They're rebuilding and kind of like how Colorado's rebuilding.
This might be the best team in Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Air Force is kind of good.
Probably the best team in Colorado.
Now, the next week to wrap up September, they come home. Now, this is one of those quirky things. They get Ole Miss at home again. They got Ole Miss last year at home. The funny thing is, Alabama is 25-1 all time in Tuscaloosa against Ole Miss. However, as Brandon pointed out at the end of the year, this is not your typical Ole Miss team. Hugh Freeze is getting some talent there, and they kind of pushed Alabama last year, and Alabama pulled away. But I don't know. This game, I think, will probably be a lot better than people think it is.
This game, last year, Ole Miss went into Tuscaloosa before Hugh Freeze had them believing that they could win. This game was a turning point for Ole Miss last year. I think Ole Miss is going to come in Tuscaloosa with most confident, and I think that this game could very well turn out the way the Texas A&M game turned out last year. Ole Miss got a lot of guns, and Hugh Freeze said, you know what, he's going to let those guns ablaze. So that game's going to be very interesting. So you might want to circle that one on your calendar.
Yeah, I'm not going to say who's going to win or who's going to lose this one, but I agree with Brandon. This game really does, as an Alabama guy, concern me for exactly those reasons. And the other thing about this was that, there's a lot of talent, but Ole Miss tried to beat Alabama. If Alabama wins this one, this will be, I believe, 10 years in a row that Alabama's won. And you were talking about how they're 25-1 all time in Tuscaloosa. If you look at the history of the series, that's because most of the games used to be either in Birmingham or Jackson.
Yeah.
So I think that they could easily be hungry for a win. So they got a lot of talent. That Ole Miss team. Hugh Freeze has done a lot in in 2 years.
Now, the next game, Alabama gets Georgia State at home for homecoming. That one should be kind of an easy game for them. Then they go on the road. They go to Kentucky, which will be Stoops' first year, which he's already got them turned around a little bit, and he's got a good recruiting class starting.
Kentucky's kind of a great unknown because, I don't think they're going to really excel, but I think they'll easily be better than they were last year. So, and playing at Kentucky is always, I don't want to say a difficult trip, but
it kind of woos you. It's kind of like a spring game type atmosphere.
It really does.
You kind of, and then you go into halftime, you're only up 10, and then you go into the fourth quarter, and you're like, oh my God, we're only up by a touchdown.
Commonwealth Stadium is a place that will lull a team to sleep.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
But one thing I will say, for as bad as Kentucky's football teams have been, those people really support the Cats up there.
Oh, yes, they will.
Yes.
Now, the next game, they come back to Bryant-Denny Stadium, and they get Arkansas. The fun thing about this is, as long as Nick Saban has been at Alabama, he has never lost to Arkansas, ever.
He ain't gonna win. He ain't gonna lose this year either.
No.
Even though if Kentucky was a great unknown, this is a greater unknown.
Yeah.
Because Arkansas still had a lot of talent left over from the Petrino years. And Brett Bielema has a really good coach.
Yeah,
he's a heck of a coach. So, how quick does he turn? He will turn Arkansas around. Question is, how quick does he do it? And is this a year where he can really get it going in the right direction?
I think it's gonna be kind of hard, just because Arkansas was the team that was kind of finesse. They ran the ball a lot when they had Nile Davis rolling a few years back, but they're really a finesse team, not really a hard nose of a defense, and Bielema believes in playing defense and running the ball at you. So that's an attitude that you have to have. So I think once he recruits and gets that attitude,
I think Arkansas doesn't really have the personnel to fit that particular persona or attitude.
Not right now. Not yet. But Houston Nutt had them rolling that same way.
Now, the next game, the big, the third Saturday in October, the big rivalry with Tennessee, comes to Tuscaloosa. The funny thing about this is, really, since Saban has gotten there, another situation where it has been completely one-sided.
Lopsided.
Yeah.
Lopsided. They have lost the last 4 games in Tuscaloosa, and Saban has not lost to Tennessee. But with this new coach coming in, new attitude, you can already see it in the players. They're a little bit different.
This is like the theme for new coaches in the SEC. Just another huge unknown. A lot of people don't know about Butch Jones, and I'm not even sure if he'll turn Tennessee around, but he's done a great job of recruiting. I don't think this is the year. I think this is going to be an easy win for Alabama, especially with it being in Tuscaloosa. But, boy, there's a lot of unknowns with Tennessee.
I think Tennessee will play harder, but I don't think they can beat Alabama.
Now, the next game, first game in November, now has become the big matchup every year. LSU comes to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. Interesting fact, though, since 2005, Alabama is 1-3 in Tuscaloosa against LSU. So, but a lot of people are saying LSU's got to replace a bunch of guys. Have they recovered from that Clemson game where they had Clemson and it just looks like Les Miles blew it? I don't know really how. I'm like you with Texas A&M, Brent. I don't know if I can call this one either way.
I'm going to say you like this. I went in and I looked at recruiting rankings. Not only recruiting rankings, I actually looked at the kids that LSU has recruited. They're going to be hitting the field this year. The announcement of LSU's demise has been severely exaggerated. These are going to be new faces, but these are going to be some ballers.
Yeah, but they're going to be really young, I think.
Yes, so was Alabama in 2010 when they were replacing everything. So it's still, 9-10 win season?
Well, I'm not saying that LSU's not going to win 9 or 10 games. I think they'll do that, but I think that this one will be one of the 3 that they don't.
Yeah, and they might not win this one, but it ain't going to be no just show up and give me one.
I mean, and here's the thing with Les Miles is that he's always had talented teams. He's been riding that wave of success since Nick Saban was there. He's doing great at recruiting because LSU's a fantastic school. But I think he really is one of those coaches that he rides the talent more than he is a good coach. I think with the situation this year, I think that he'll get out-coached because his talent will be very young.
Yeah, it very well could happen. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what Les Miles will do. I remember, 2010 when they walked into the season against North Carolina. It felt like they had half the team suspended. Kind of where they propelled from that year with a very, very young team. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Les Miles does with LSU.
Now, the next game, Mississippi State, they go to Starkville. And after last year, I mean, people wondering that they're going to have that, Mississippi State will have that game circled and we get you at home, we're going to give you everything. But I just don't know. I just don't think Mississippi State has the players to run with Alabama yet. They've got players, but I don't think they have the depth.
They don't have the players, but something about Starkville
is
going there.
Starkville's like Commonwealth State in Kentucky. It'll lull you to sleep.
Yeah, but they ring you to sleep with them damn cowbells. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think the big question with this one, I don't think that it's going to be really that close because I'm concerned with Mississippi State this year. I think the real question is going to be, does Dan Mullen keep his job after this game?
Yes, he's going to keep it. You know why?
Why?
They're satisfied.
I don't think they're satisfied.
Man, them folks satisfied.
Well, I tell you what, there are 2 games that Mississippi State's going to have after that one, that they might not be satisfied.
Ole Miss, one of them.
That's true. Now, Alabama will get Chattanooga at home. That's the warm-up game before they actually play Auburn. Now, the Iron Bowl, November 30th. It's no longer the same weekend as Thanksgiving. It's being moved back. Alabama is 4-7 all-time in Auburn. Now, this is just my opinion.
Still Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though. This is what kind of gets me. And I've tried to explain this to people. It's going to be a good game, and I'll tell you why. It's not because it's a rivalry. It's going to be because Auburn has made it clear that Alabama is their number one objective. They will run every play that they have scripted for the year that they've never run. So you'll see quadruple, reverse, halfback, throwback passes. And I have a feeling what Auburn's going to do is Auburn's going to try to do what A&M did to Alabama last year, jump out to a 21-0 lead and then hold on.
Auburn people, send your letters to Kyle Anderson. Right. His name is Kyle.
Now, this is what I think what's going to happen.
@_Anderson.
But I think what will happen is, I think it'll be like it was the last time. The first 2 quarters, it's going to be tight. And then in the second half, that's when the emotion's going to die down. The depth's going to start to show. And I think that's when Alabama starts to pull away. I think Alabama wins. Now, Auburn will fight them hard. They're not going to quit like they did last year. Malzahn's made that clear that's not going to happen. But they just don't have it yet. And I think that the one advantage they have is to throw plays at Alabama they've just never seen.
Last year, Auburn was, by the time they were playing Alabama, they knew they weren't going to win a game in the SEC. By this game, I think that they'll at least think that they've had a chance because they're going to be a lot more competitive than they were last year.
I want to say something positive about this game. I don't see it. I'm sorry. Auburn was 3-9 last year, 0-4 in the SEC, and against the big teams, you weren't even competitive. I mean, you were outgained in the average ACC game by over 200 yards. I'm sorry. I don't care who's the head man. It's not happening. And I think Alabama, you have all the emotion. You can have Alabama circle, but I think by the time they get to that game, their spirit is going to be so broken.
Then the question is, Alabama going to be able to defend that Gus Malzahn spread that always gives them a little bit of a tough time? Well, I guess not always.
Then that's going to make the interesting game for the season. It's going to be fun to watch it unfold. That right there, Alabama 2013. Could we be looking at a third national championship? I don't know. Only time's going to tell. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the SEC. Come back to the locker room with myself, Brandon, and Matt. We're going to make sure that we cover the SEC.
Brandon, is now a good time to remind you that LSU didn't win the national championship last year, like you said?